Now, we are in topic 1, human nervous system. The follows are the human nervous system function. First of all, receiving stimulus. This is about receive the stimuli through sensory organs. Secondly, transmitting information in nerve impulse. This is about transmitting stimuli information from sensory organ to the center nervous system. And, after the interpretation from the central nervous system, the response information will be transmitted to the body. The information is in the nerve impulse. The third is response, at which the body take action with the nerve impulse. Stimulus is any incident or event that can cause a change in our environment, for example, light, sound, and touch. Response is the action of organism react to the stimulus. In general, human nervous system can be divided into two parts. The first is the central nervous system, which consists of brain and spinal cord. The central nervous system is the interpreter of our external environment. The second part is the peripheral nervous system, which consists of cranium nerves and spinal nerves. Peripheral nervous system, carrying sensory information about the external world, and the body to the brain and spinal cord. The follows are the pathway of nervous impulse to produce a response. First of all, there must have stimulus exists in the environment. For example, high temperature, sound, light, and pressure. With the attendance of stimulus, the receptor cells in sensory organ produces a nerve impulses. Receptor, also known as effector. Nerve impulses from the receptor will send through the nerve to the central nervous system. It is either the brain or spinal cord, at which nerve impulses will be interpreted. How the brain and spinal cord function as the central nervous system will be detailed in the next topic. After the nerve impulse was interpreted, another set of nerve impulses will be produced. This set nerve impulses is then sent to effector. Effector is an organ or cell that receive the nerve impulses from the central nervous system as the instruction set for it to respond. At the final stage, the effector produce the response, which implemented by the body. Now, we will talk about the two responses. They are voluntary actions and involuntary actions. There are two responses to react to the stimulus. They are voluntary actions and involuntary actions. The first kind of the responses is the voluntary action. The second kind of the responses is the involuntary action. The two kinds of responses will be detailed in the coming part of the video. We first talk about the voluntary actions. Voluntary actions is conscious actions and conducted by human will. Voluntary action is controlled by the brain. The example of the voluntary actions is writing, reading, running, and talking. The voluntary actions allow us to perform the activity for our will. The voluntary actions enables us to respond to a stimulus with an action according to our will. For example, pick up a phone when the phone is ringing. The pathway of impulse is as following. The first stage is stimulus existed in the environment. At the second stage, the receptor or effector receive the stimulus and produce nerve impulses. At the third stage, the nerve impulse transmitted to the central nervous system, it is the brain, through the nerve. At which, the brain is the interpreter, to produce another set of nerve impulses. At the fourth stage, the cell or organ receive the nerve impulses from the brain, through the nerve. At the fifth stage, the response occurs, at which the action is conducted by the body. The follows are about the involuntary actions. Involuntary actions are unconscious actions, and it is not conducted by human will. Another said, it is not controlled by the brain. In general, involuntary actions are controlled by medulla oblongata and spinal cord. Involuntary actions allow our body to perform the unconscious actions. For example, breathing, eye blinking, pulling away hand, when touching a hot object. The pathway of impulse in the involuntary action is as follows. At the first stage, stimulus existed in the environment. At the second stage, the receptor or effector receive the stimulus and produce nerve impulses. At the third stage, the nerve impulse transmitted to the central nervous system, it is the spinal cord, through the nerve. At which, the spinal cord is the interpreter to produce another set of nerve impulses. At the fourth stage, the cell or organ receive the nerve impulses from the spinal cord through the nerve. At the fifth stage, the response occurs, at which the action is conducted by the body. Now, we talk about the stimuli and responses in human. Stimuli are any incident or event that can cause a change in our environment, for example, light, sound, and touch. Humans use their sensory organs to detect stimuli. In general, humans have 5 sensory organs. The first is eyes. Eyes are the sensory organs of vision. This is the organ to detect the light. The second is ears. This is the sensory organs of sound. The third organ is nose. Nose is the sensory organ of smell, at which smell is produced by the chemical substances in the air. The fourth organ is skin. Skin is the sensory organ of pressure, temperature, and pain. The fifth organ is tongue. Tongue is the sensory organ of taste. This 5 sensory organs will be detailed in the coming part of the video. We first talk about eyes. Eyes are the sensory organs of vision. Eyes are the organ to detect stimulus, the light. We able to see things because the stimulus, light reflected from the object, and enter eyes to the retina. Retina has receptor cells, the photoreceptor cells, to detect the light. There are 2 types of photoreceptor cells. Rod cells, this is the cells to detect to dim condition. Cone cells, this is the cells to detect to bright condition. Now, let's discuss the structure of eyes and their function. We start the discussion with sclera of eyes. This is the tough layer that gives shape and protects the eyes. About the choroid. This is the layer beneath the sclera. Choroid contains blood capillaries, and blood capillaries function to supply oxygen and nutrients to eyes. About the retina of eyes. Retina contains photoreceptor cells that produce impulse. As mentioned earlier, the photoreceptor cells are rod cells and cone cells. About the yellow spot. This is the area in retina, and it is rich with receptor, and the most sensitive area to light. About the blind spot. This is the area in retina, without receptor. About the optical nerve. Optical nerve function to transmits nerve impulses to the brain. About the ciliary muscles. Ciliary muscles functions to control the lens thickness. About the suspensory ligament. Suspensory ligament functions to hold the lens in positions. About the iris. Iris functions to control the pupil size. About the cornea. Cornea functions to focuses the light on the retina. About the conjunctiva. Conjunctiva functions to protects the cornea. About the pupil. The pupil functions to control the amount of light entering the eye. About the lens. The lens functions to refracts and focuses light onto the retina. About the aqueous humor. Aqueous humor, also a part, functions to refract and focus light onto the eyes. About the posterior chamber. The posterior chamber functions to produce aqueous humor. About the vitreous humor, or vitreous body. Vitreous humor is jelly-like substances, and it functions to maintains the shape. This table shows the summary of the structure of eyes and their functions. You can do a pause of the video to review the summary. Now, let's see how the mechanism of sight to happen. The first stage is the light rays reflected from the object enter eyes. At the second stage, the light rays pass through the aqueous humor to form an image on retina. At the third stage, image of object formed on the retina. At the fourth stage, photoreceptors are stimulated by the rays. At the fifth stage, optical nerves send nerve impulses to the brain. At the sixth stage, the brain interprets the impulses. Now, we will discuss ears. Ears is the sensory organs of sound. In general, ears got two function. The first is, ears function to detect the sound. The second is, ears function to maintain the balance of body. About the structure of ears. Our ears can be divided into three parts. The first is the outer ear, which contains the air. The second is the middle ear, it contains the air. The third part is the inner ear, it contains the fluid. These three parts of the ears will be detailed in the coming section of the video. This is the structure of ears. We start the discussion with the outer ear. The outer ear consists of the pinna, an ear canal. The first part of the outer ear is the pinna. The pinna is shaped like a funnel, and it is made up of skin and cartilage. Pinna functions to collect and direct sound waves into the ear canal. The second part of the outer ear is the ear canal. Ear canal, also known as auditory canal. Ear canal is a narrow tube line with hair, it is about 2.5 centimeters long. It functions to direct sound to the eardrum. Now, we will talk about the middle ear. Middle ear is made up of eardrum, ossicles, oval window and eustachian tube. About the eardrum. Eardrum is a thin, stretched membrane at the end of the auditory canal. It functions to receive the sound wave and vibrate it. It converts the sound energy to kinetic energy. About the ossicle. Ossicle is a three small bone structure that connect the eardrum and oval window. Ossicle functions to amplify the vibrations and transfer them from eardrum to oval window. Oval window is a thin, small membrane at the end of the ossicles. Oval window transfers the vibrations from the ossicles to the cochlea. About the eustachian tube. Eustachian tube is a narrow tube, it connects the middle ear to the back of the throat. Eustachian tube functions to equalizes the air pressure on both sides of the eardrum to prevent it from damage. In general, eustachian tube doesn't involve in the hearing. About the inner part of the ear. Inner ear consists of three parts. They are semicircular canal, auditory nerve and cochlea. About the semicircular canal. There are two semicircular canal. The two semicircular canal are placed right angle to each other, and they contain fluid and sensory cells. Semicircular canal function to detect the head position for balancing. And semicircular canal doesn't involve in the hearing. About the auditory nerve. Auditory nerve is the nerve fiber, it connects the ear to the brain. Auditory nerve function to carry nerve impulses from cochlea to the brain. About cochlea. Cochlea is the coiled tube, it filled with fluid, and lined with hair-like sensory cells. Cochlea functions to detect vibration, and converts them to the information in nerve impulses. This is about to convert kinetic energy to electrical energy. This table shows the summary of the structure of the ears. Please do a pause of the video to review the structure of the ears. The following are the mechanism of hearing. At the first stage, pinna collects and direct the sound into ear canal. At the second stage, the ear canal directs sound to the eardrum. At the third stage, the eardrum vibrates. At the fourth stage, ossicles amplify the vibration. At the fifth stage, oval window transfers the vibration to cochlea. At the sixth stage, receptors in the cochlea convert vibrations to impulses in electrical form. At the seventh stage, auditory nerve carries impulses to the brain. At the eighth stage, the brain interprets the impulses. Now, we talk about nose. Nose is the sensory organ of smell. Smell is the stimuli produced by chemical substances in the air. Molecules of the chemical substances inhaled into nasal cavity through the nostrils. The nasal cavity is coated with epithelial cells. Epithelial cells secrete mucus. Mucus function to trap microorganisms and dust. The receptor, located at the upper part of nasal cavity. In the nasal cavity, the inhaled chemical substances, the smell, will dissolve into the mucus layer. Receptor convert the dissolved chemical substances into electrical impulses. Now, we talk about the skin. Skin is the sensory organ of pressure, temperature, and pain. Our skin consists of 3 layers. They are epidermis layer, the top layer of the skin; dermis layer, the middle layer of the skin; fatty layer, the deepest layer of the skin. In general, there are 5 types of receptor, can be found inside the skin. This is for us to sense the pain, temperature, and pressure. They are pain receptor, cold receptor, heat receptor, touch receptor, and pressure receptor. In general, our skin thickness is ranged from 0.5 mm to 4 mm. And the different parts of the body will have different thickness. Since this thickness of the skin influence the skin sensitivity to the stimuli, the different part of the body will have different degree of sensitivity to the stimuli. Sensitivity to the stimuli influenced by 2 factors. The first factor is the thickness of the epidermis layer. The second factor is the number of receptors inside the skin. Now, we discuss the last sensory organ, tongue. The tongue is the sensory organ of taste. The tongue consists of various type of receptor cells, taste buds. Taste bud contains many taste receptor. In the mouth, food will dissolve in the saliva. The dissolved food will stimulate taste buds to trigger impulses. Impulses will be sent by nerve cells to the brain for interpretation. Tongue can detect taste of food. They are sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami of food. Umami is the delicious taste in food, it is the glutamate content. Food additive, monosodium glutamate, is found with umami taste. Now, we talk about the relationship between sensory organs, with sensitivity towards various combination of stimuli. One sensory organ is sensitive to one type of stimulus. If one of the sensory organs is affected, other sensory organs will become affected, or become more sensitive. For example, the touch senses of blind are more sensitive. A person who facing running nose will have less appetite to the food. Because the nasal cavity is filled with mucus, chemical substances not able to reach the receptor. Now, we talk about factors affecting human sight and hearing. There are three main factors affecting human sight and hearing. The first is the limitations of senses. The second is defects in the sensory organs. The third is the aging process. These three factors will be detailed in the coming section of the video. We first talk about the limitation of senses. Every sensory organs have their limitation. For example, eyes cannot see objects that are too far away or objects too small. Eyes can only see the visible light. The visible light are one of the electromagnetic wave. Visible wavelength is from 380 nanometer to 700 nanometer. At which, the red light is the light with wavelength range from 625 nanometer to 700 nanometer. And the violet light is the light with wavelength range from 380 nanometer to 450 nanometer. The human eyes not able to detect the electromagnetic light with the wavelength out of the visible light wavelength. Human ears cannot hear the sound fall at the range out of wavelength range from 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz. About the second factor, defects in the sensory organs. We first talk about the defect of vision. Short-sightedness and long-sightedness are the defect of vision. To focus the distance or near object image onto the retina, the lens thickness will change accordingly. With the defective vision, short-sightedness or long-sightedness, the object image not able to focus on the retina, the image are blurred. Let's further discuss the short-sightedness and long-sightedness. We first talk about the short-sightedness, and we known it as myopia. The condition of the myopia is the close objects are clear, but the distant objects are blur. The causes of the myopia is the eye's lens are too thick and eyeballs are too long. This causes the light from distant objects not able to focus on the retina, but focus in front of the retina. For the correction of short-sightedness, we may wear glasses with concave lenses to diverge light before it enters the eyes. This allows the image of object able to be focused on the retina. About the long-sightedness, and we also known it as hypermetropia. This is the condition at which the close objects are blurred and the distant objects are clear. The causes of the long-sightedness are the lens are too thin and the eyeballs are too short. This causes the light from close objects are focused behind the retina. For the correction of short-sightedness, we may wear glasses with convex lenses to converge light before it enters the eyes. This allows the light to focus on the retina. Astigmatism are another defect that can happen in our vision. The is the condition at which the vision is less clear and not sharp. This is due to the irregular surface of the cornea. The irregular surface of the cornea causes the light from objects not focused towards one point on the retina. The correction of the astigmatism is wear glasses with cylindrical lenses. A cylindrical lens is a lens which focuses light into a line instead of a point. Now, we talk about the defects of hearing, the deafness. Deafness is the condition at which the partial or total hearing loss happens. Deafness can be caused by The inherited condition, infections, accident, aging, and continuous exposure to noise levels more than 85 Hz. If the incident lead to the punctured eardrum, ossicles fusing together, and damage of the sensory cells. For the correction of deafness, surgery can be conducted, and wear hearing aid. Now, we talk about the innovation and technology to improve the ability of sensory organs. Limitation of sensory organs can be overcome using the tools of technology. For example, the magnification glass. Magnification glass is a convex lens that is used to produce a magnified image of an object. Telescope. A telescope is an optical instrument using lenses, curved mirrors, or a combination of both, to observe distant objects, or various devices used to observe distant objects. Microscope. Microscope is a laboratory instrument used to examine objects that are too small to be seen by the naked eye. Stethoscope. The stethoscope is an acoustic medical device for auscultation, or listening to internal sounds of an animal or human body. If you like my video, please click like and share this video to the others who need it. Your subscription to my channel is my motivation to continue making videos. Thank you for watching.